Hey friends, Jill here. Welcome back to Whispering Willow Farm. Today I'm in my greenhouse and I'm going to be answering all of your guys' questions. I did a video on selling plants for profit and kind of talked through what I do, how I think about selling plants, the different avenues I sell plants for. But since that video, I have been getting a lot of questions just funneled in about pricing, varieties, and I keep getting the same question asked often on here and on other social media platforms. And so today, now that my starts are a bit more established, I'm just going to show you guys, talk through pricing, talk through soil, talk through some of the things that go through my head, and hopefully it will just help you guys if you are selling plants this year, or maybe you are looking into selling plants in the future and you're just trying to nail down some of those things. So yeah, let's just kind of dive into it. So when I am thinking about what I am growing for the plant sale, I am thinking about something that is going to be unique. Primarily, I grow only heirlooms, especially when it comes to tomatoes. All of my tomatoes are heirloom varieties, and that is because I know that that is the market that I am approaching. You know, a lot of people are trying to seek out those heirloom varieties. You're not able to find that. I want to offer a consumer something that they cannot go to the store and buy. And by doing that, that also plays a role in the pricing, because it is something that they are not going to be able to just go to the store and buy as well. Therefore, it has more value. So when I think through what am I going to put them in, all of my tomatoes go in 3.5-inch deep square pots from Greenhouse Megastore. This is another question that I get asked a lot. The sizing on their pots are kind of different. I have done the 4-inch pots before. They're just way too deep. You guys can see here, this is a 3.5-inch deep square. This is a really good size start. That's going to take a lot of soil, and you're able to just have a good established start in this. So that is what I do. I will find all the things and link them for you below, but I'm not using my Bootstrap Farmer trays for this because these cost me a lot of money. More than likely the people that are using these are going to throw them away, and so all of my Bootstrap Farmer trays stay just for our farm. It's what I start all of our stuff in. Everything that I'm selling goes in these, and it's the 3.5 deep square is the ones that I'm using. So all of my tomatoes go in that size pots. All of my flowers I do in 6-packs. And the reason why I do that, all of my zinnias and marigolds, and the reason why I do that is because more than likely when you go to a nursery, or let's say a Lowe's or a Home Depot, someplace like that that's also selling plants, you're not going to find more than likely just one zinnia plant. And when you think about too, I'm wanting to offer my consumer a good value. And you know, it's pretty typical to just buy your tomatoes in a single pot at the store, but is one zinnia or one marigold gonna do anybody a lot of good? Not really. And I'm thinking about the price point I'm hitting. I'm thinking about how much soil it's gonna take, the price of my pot. It just makes a lot more sense for me to do these in a 6-pack. So you guys can see the plant sale here, we've got 2 full weeks, so these will grow good size, but they will not be putting on any blooms or anything like that, which is something that's really important to me. I want to offer something that's not too big, and I have run into that in the past before where I had, you know, nasturtiums or something like that, and they ended up getting really big. Now nasturtiums I do actually put in single pots, and that is because a lot of times people just want a couple nasturtiums. They're wanting them to go in one pot. A lot of people grow them in containers, or maybe they're wanting them to go on a trellis. So I do my nasturtium babies in the 3.5-inch deep pots. It's the only thing I don't offer in a 6-pack, and usually it is because these are really small. I don't actually know that they'll be big enough in time for the sale. But usually my nasturtiums are much larger, and so if you put that in a 6-pack, they're going to get tangled. Now I will sell these at a lower price point too, which I'll talk about that in a second. And then we have our marigolds. So our marigolds I also do in a 6-pack, as you guys can see right here. And that's just because I'm thinking about what I would buy. I'm not going to go to the store and buy one marigold. That doesn't make sense to me. I plant them in between my tomatoes. I'm eating several of them. And so I just want someone who stops by our booth to think that they're getting a good value for their price. And so that's kind of how I figure out what I'm putting in 6-packs and what I'm putting in singles. Now I do have my sunflowers in singles. If I put them in a 6-pack, I find that that is a lot, and also I've noticed that a lot of people don't plant 6 sunflowers from my experience. So I offer these in 2.5-inch pots, and I sell these for $3. And that is largely, I determine my price based off of what my starts look like. All right, so let's talk about tomatoes real quick. So I've got these 3.5-inch pots. You guys can see this is a pretty big tomato plant. It was on the back row in my greenhouse, and for some reason it's just getting a lot more sun and it's growing much quicker than. I do not have a lot of my tomato plants that are this size. This is the size that I'm hoping they will all get to by the time they sell, but most of them are this size right here, which is actually really good. This is a thick plant. It's super sturdy, it's stocky, it's not tall, it's not leggy. So this right here is a good plant. This right here is a better plant because it's just a bit more established. So for this right here, I would charge $5. And for the smaller one, I would charge $4. Now, how I think about that is my price invested. So I can tell you that most of my tomato plants, when they are of the size that I want them to be, I charge $5 for them. I'm taking into consideration though the soil that I'm buying. All the seeds were organic heirloom seeds that I started, therefore I can get more for it. If you are certified naturally grown and you're having to abide by, you know, the rules that are in place to get that certification, which would mean you have to have organic soil, you can only buy organic seeds, you are able to charge more for that. Just like if you were to go to a Lowe's or a nursery, you're gonna pay more for an organic plant start than you are one that is inorganic, and that is because the price to produce that plant costs more. The seed costs more, the soil costs more. So that is something to be mindful of. Had I went and bought cheap soil and I just bought cheap seeds that weren't organic, they weren't non-GMO or anything like that, I probably couldn't get $5 for the start. I could probably get $3 for the start. Also, this is an heirloom variety. This is a variety that you're not able to just go to the store and buy. This is a black from Tula. I've actually never seen this available in my area at all. And so those are things that I'm thinking about. I also try to grow things that I could compare to something. So when trying to sell this black from Tula, I'm going to say, well, this is a really beautiful black tomato, similar to your Cherokee Purple. It has really good, you know, smoky flavor. I find that it's less likely to crack versus the Cherokee Purple, and it performs and produces better for me, which is 100% truth. So I'm giving them something that is comparable to something that they know, but I can say, hey, listen, this is a better option to this. This is why I like this. Also, this is unique, and I can guarantee you not very many people in our area are growing this, and it gives them that opportunity to try new things. Same with the flowers. You can go and just buy your standard sunflower at the store, but I've got black Russian sunflowers. I've got dwarf sunspots. I've got sunflowers that they're not going to be able to go and buy somewhere else, which gives me an advantage. So my sunflowers, even though they're in these 2.5-inch pots, they will be quite a bit bigger by the time the sale comes, and I will sell these for $3. Again, the variety, the soil, what I have in it, those are the things that I'm thinking about. Also, I only take my best starts. So I have got these little tomatoes right here that I started really late, and it was because I realized I didn't start any of these and I wanted to grow them. So I had no intention to actually sell these. But say this is what my tomatoes looked like. Say the plant sale came and they were just a little bit bigger than this. I'm not gonna actually take this and sell it because I wouldn't buy a tomato like this. This is one of those that I would look for in another one if I was shopping plant starts, and I'd think, oh, I'd get a 2-for-1. I can kind of, you know, plant this one out in the garden, take this one in the greenhouse, let it get a bit bigger, and I got that 2-for-1 price. But I would not feel good or confident about selling a start as small and puny as this. I wouldn't even sell it for $3. I'm just gonna keep this at home and know that this can go in my garden, and it needs to take a bit longer to get established before I would feel comfortable selling it. With all of my basils and herbs, the only herb I sell at the plant sale is basil. We do have a farmer that is primarily what she specializes in, and it's one of those things that she does it so well that we all send in a variety list. At the beginning, when all the vendors agree that they are going to do the plant sale, we are all kind of not required, but we are asked to submit a variety list. That way we're not competing with each other. Not all vendors are just growing the same thing, that there is a lot of variety to offer our community members. And this particular farm, she specializes in herbs. She does it so well, so a lot of us don't really grow a lot of those specialty herbs because she just does it so well, and we just let her have that platform. Most of us though are growing some sort of easy herb, which would be like a basil, some sort of thyme or something like that. What I do is just the basils. I offer these in a 6-pack, and I do this because, again, not often am I going to the store and buying one basil. Now you can, because you can get them where they just load it up and you're able to separate it out and it makes sense. But I kind of like variety. So what I do, I know that there are going to be people there that are selling your Genovese basil, that are just selling your lime basils, maybe they're selling your opal basil. I think, okay, well, how can I appeal to everyone? Instead of buying, you know, one of this and one of this, let's do some sort of variety. And so I do variety packs. I've got 3 of the opal, 3 of the Genovese. I'm hoping these get big enough in time. Depending on how big these are, they will sell for $4 to $5 a 6-pack, just because right now they're really small and I wouldn't feel comfortable selling that, because I wouldn't feel comfortable buying that. So again, I do have a buyer for things after the plant sale. It's a local farm stand to us. I sell her everything I have left over. So I know that if I can't sell these at the plant sale, they will be big enough to sell to her, probably the beginning of May, middle of May. And so I feel good about this, but I do offer these in 6-packs. 4-pack is a good option, but again, I would say base this off of the size of your plant on what you are pricing it. So I have my basil that I have started for the Greenstalk. As you guys can see, I wasn't originally going to sell basil, and then I changed my mind and decided, well, why not? I'll just do it. So this is really tall. I would sell this. This is in probably, so this is a 3.5-inch pot. Oh my gosh. It smells so good. I cannot wait for this to go into like some lemonade. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's okay. Sorry, I got so distracted. If you guys could smell what I'm smelling right now. So I would sell this for $3 or $4. This is a really good, they can immediately go put this out into their garden. They can immediately start harvesting the leaves off of these to use this. So I would say for this start, I would do $3 or $4, depending on, is it organic soil that you're using? Is it an organic seed that you bought, a non-GMO seed? Is it a variety that they can't go to the store and buy? These are all things that I'm thinking about continuously when figuring out the pricing for my plants. But all my plants, I determine the price based off the size. Another thing I want to hit on, because it is super important, where you are located also determines that. So say you are in California, for instance, your plant starts are going to cost way more to go to the store and buy than they are for me here in Arkansas. And I know that for a fact. I've got family and friends in Arkansas or in California. We've done this comparison and I think, wow, this is wild. The soil there is costing more. The price of living in general there costs more. It costs more to produce a plant there in that region than it does for me here in this region. So I always encourage people who tell me, well, how do I know what to charge? How do I know? What do I do? What do I set my price at? I encourage you, go to your local nurseries, go to your Lowe's, your Home Depot, your, co-op, any type of plant nursery, and figure out, okay, what their pricing is for just a regular plant start, what their pricing is for an organic plant start, and do a comparison. See, are they offering a single plant? Are they offering them in a 6-pack or a 4-pack? What are the varieties? Are you growing the same varieties? Can someone buy the same start from you that they could there and it be a better quality, lesser quality? These are all things that I try to ask myself and be mindful of every single year. I go to these stores, I'm looking at what they're charging, I'm looking at, what do I have that's of the same, or, what do I have that is of equal value or better value to make someone feel like they're getting a good deal. And I also think about myself as a consumer. I also buy the things that I'm lacking in my garden from these other farmers. I wouldn't want to charge something that I myself would not pay for them. I do value that I'm supporting a local farm, so I do not mind spending more money just to kind of support their business and what they're doing. But those are just things to be mindful of. If you charge $7 for this plant, are you going to pay $7 for it? I personally wouldn't, and so those are just some things that I really think about. Another variety I grow every year is just your standard Black Beauty zucchini, straight neck squash, Patty's pan squash. This year I am doing some tromboncino squash. I plan on just like printing photos and like showing people, give them a good description of what that looks like, some ways they can cook it. It is one of those things when you start thinking about going out there and maybe doing some unique and to me cool varieties, I have to be mindful mindful that that is going to intimidate some people. So I have 5 Tremoncino starts. There's a good chance I won't even sell them all because it's intimidating. They don't know what to do. You do have to have it on an arch trellis. When you're thinking about your time, explaining that to somebody, you just have to think, is it worth it? For me, you guys know I love the Tremoncino squash so much that it's worth it to me to kind of at least get to tell people about it. And even if they don't buy it, you know, maybe as they are growing as gardeners and becoming more experienced, that is something that they'd want to do, and they think back, oh, remember that one conversation I had? She was talking about this squash that was really cool. I think I might want to grow that. And so for me, I don't really hang my hat on the fact that I'm going to sell those. I usually don't take things that are super, super unique like that. I just stick to the standard because most people, when it comes to squash and zucchinis in my area, they don't really care about all these different varieties. They're asking, well, do you have a black beauty? Do you have a straight neck? Do you have a crook neck? They're just wanting your standard more so than being willing to venture out for a tomato or an eggplant, for instance. So I do all of my squash and zucchini. I only start 10 of each one. So I've got 10 zucchini, 10 patty pan, 10 straight necks. This is not something that I offer it, but I don't put a huge emphasis on because I know that I'm going to get more for my tomatoes and they sell better. That is primarily what people are coming to me to buy, are the heirloom varieties. I've been selling them for years and they just kind of can count on me being able to have something that they can't get at the store. These they can get at the store. They're just choosing to buy from me to support my family. So these will be quite a bit bigger by the time I sell them, but they'll be probably like the perfect size in my opinion, and I will sell these for $3. The seeds don't cost me near as much. They are organic, non-GMO, but it's just they're way easier to grow. They don't have near as much maintenance on them as far as my time. I just seed them directly. Some of them I will seed them directly in here. Most years I do that. This year, for instance, I did seed them in a 50 cell tray because I was keeping some for my farm and it just was easier for me. I'll take them from that and just immediately put them out into the garden. And so, you know, this, which is probably of lesser value to a lot of people, they're not really wanting to spend $5 on a squash plant. I just sell these for $3. If you are growing any sort of lettuce or spinach or kales, I would put those in a 6-pack because this is what they're going to find at a store. You want it to be comparable, but you know, grown better is kind of what I say. I want them to get from me what they could get somewhere else, but they know that I grew it. They knew that it was grown organically and they could feel good about it. But I'm not going to sell a single spinach because, you know, they can go and buy a 6-pack and this was, I don't know, like $4 or something. And so I try to be mindful of that. Granted, this was Bonnie. This is not organic. So say it was organic, this would probably jump to $5 or $6. And so those are just some things to think about. I did get asked the other day too, you know, someone asked me if I was selling a root vegetable in a 4-inch pot, what should I sell it for? And I'm just going to be really honest with you guys. You have to think about what makes sense. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to start root vegetables because those are just so easily direct sown. They do so much better. And I try to think too, if I were to start a radish or a carrot, I guess, in a pot, I guess technically, yes, you could do that. But those things are not going to transplant well. Carrots are meant to be direct sown. You can grow radish for microgreens. However, for them to get to maturity where you would put them out into the garden, it really doesn't make sense. You could have just direct sown it and saved your time. When you think about your time investment on it, starting a root vegetable like a radish or a carrot or something with as much soil as you're going to be putting, you're thinking about the price of the material that it costs you, it doesn't logically make a whole lot of sense. And then there's a good chance when they go to put those things out into their garden, they're not going to do well because they just were never intended to be transplanted. And unfortunately, that comes back on you. And so those are things that I want you to think about and be mindful of. There was the first year I did the plant sale, I did not harden off my plants properly. I just ran out of time and I really didn't know how to properly harden off and condition my plants to be sold. I had them in my greenhouse. I wasn't letting them spend as much time outside. And so I'd sold these plants and they were good plants, right? Like there was nothing wrong with the actual plant. It just needed that process. Well, when they took that plant home and they planted it, you know, in their soil and they did everything that they were supposed to do, it got sun scald, it started wilting, it started having a lot of issues, and that was a direct reflection on me. They thought that I sold them a bad plant. when simply, when they reached out to me, I had to explain, oh, sometimes this is typical. It actually was an error on my part. I should have hardened them off. These are things you need to be mindful of. So if you are doing a variety that maybe can be started and transplanted, but really, really thrives when direct sown, you need to think about, is it worth it if this flops? Because more than likely, these are beginner gardeners. You know, first-time gardeners, there may be some experienced gardeners, but you have to think a lot of experienced gardeners are probably starting their own things from seed. And so I try to think, what is an easy, hardy thing that a first-time gardener who knew nothing about it could take it home, put it in the ground, and it's going to flourish, it's going to do great. They're going to think well of me. And not that it's something you're doing intentionally. Absolutely not. Those are just things that the first year I did the plant sale, I ended up getting a lot of emails, and I had to explain a lot of things, and it was because of an error I made on not conditioning my plants properly for that first-time gardener. Maybe not knowing when is the best time to, you know, transplant your things out. Is that early in the morning? Is it later in the evening? They didn't know. Maybe they did just go out in the middle of the day and throw them out there, and of course they got droopy and maybe, you know, experienced a lot of transplant shock. And so those are just some things that I try to be mindful of. I try to grow just really hardy plants that are kind of foolproof for the most part. Something that when they put it outside, I've hardened it off well, I've conditioned it well, and it just will kind of be resilient and thrive. And it makes my customers want to come back and keep buying from me. And so I try to avoid anything that is just a little finicky, that could be, you know, started. And like, for instance, I mean, you know, some things like root vegetables, you can start them. I start all my beets and transplant them out, but I have a very particular system to that. And for the first time gardener, that may be overwhelming if they don't know those things. And so they could accidentally kill it. Not mean to, but it is reflecting me. And so maybe just think about those things. And you also want to make sure that you are figuring out, how much do you have invested in this? What is your time worth? What are you spending on pots? What are you spending on soil? What are you spending on seeds? You know, we do this to be a part of our community. We love it, but we also have to make something on it. It has to be worth our time, our money investment, our time, our labor, and things like that. So those are things that I'm jotting down. How much my, you know, containers cost. How much did I spend on soil this year? How much was my seeds? Did I save these seeds? Did I buy these seeds? How long am I spending in the greenhouse up potting? And so those are some things that if you're wanting to do this, and maybe you're wanting to dabble into this season or next season, just ask yourself. I will tell you though, there is so much value in selling good local organic plants to your community. It feels good. I am just kind of in this season where I am like, what can I do? What is my purpose? How can I have good positive change and effect on my community? And by providing them with local plant starts that are grown without any type of chemical use, you know, organic seeds that is going to grow organic food, as long as they keep mending and tending to it that way, it makes me feel good, and that is worth it. And I would encourage you guys, it brings me so much joy. I get so connected to my community every single year. I've had the same people show up year after year to buy from me, and that means so stinking much. I could not imagine, no matter what season of life I'm in, I will never be too busy to invest in this right here. There may be a point where I don't even have to do this, but I will continue to do it because it has brought me so close to my community, and I know that I am directly having an impact on the food system for my local community, and that matters, and it means so much to me. So if this is something that you've maybe been on the fence with, I'm going to tell you, go for it, because it will just bring you so much joy. And yes, it is work, but I promise you at the end of it, you're probably going to be so just full of gratitude and thankfulness that it was worth all the work you put into it. So I hope this answered some of y'all's questions maybe you've been having. I know these are a lot of the questions I've been getting asked often. If you have more, leave them below, leave your comments below, and I will be happy to get to them. But thanks for hanging out with me in the greenhouse today. I'll talk to you soon.